Hello everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to dive into a heartfelt and emotional story about Tu Tieu and Uri, a tale of love, trust, and the difficult choices that can change everything. From moments of deep pain to quiet glimmers of hope, this journey will take us through the storms of the heart and the search for second chances. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the next chapters. After a long time away, Tutio finally returns to the farm she once called home. Her chest is tight with a mix of emotions: nostalgia, nervousness, and a creeping unease she can't quite explain. The air smells the same as she remembers: fresh, earthy, alive. The distant sound of animals grazing stirs up memories she thought had faded. She closes her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath, trying to calm the storm building inside her. But something feels off. The landscape is the same. The fences and barns still stand where they always did. Yet it all feels different, like a picture she knows by heart, but painted in new, unfamiliar colors. Her boots crunch against the dirt as she walks through the yard, scanning the fields. And then she sees him, Uri. He's working near the garden, head down, focused. For a brief moment, their eyes meet, just long enough for her heart to skip before he looks away and returns to his task. It should feel comforting to see him again, but instead, it leaves her unsettled. She loved him once, so deeply it scared her. And now she can't help but wonder, has that love faded? Or has it changed into something she can't recognize? The peaceful scene around her, animals grazing lazily, the soft sway of leaves in the breeze, feels painfully out of sync with the storm in her chest. She pushes the thought away and steps into the house. The air inside is heavy, as if the walls have absorbed years of silence and waiting. Then, her breath catches. Uri is there again, but he's not alone. Standing beside him is his secretary. They're talking, laughing softly, and there's an ease between them that feels far too familiar. Tutio's pulse quickens. She notices the way his hand rests lightly on the woman's shoulder. It's such a small gesture, but to Tutio, it's like a spark hitting dry grass. Jealousy, confusion, hurt. It all hits at once. Is this why he never came looking for her? Did he move on while she was gone? Was she foolish to believe that the bond they once had could survive time and distance? She wants to speak, to ask, but the words stick in her throat. What if it's exactly what it looks like? What if the truth is worse than her fears? For long, tense moments, she stands there watching them, her mind swirling with questions she isn't ready to hear the answers to. Finally, she can't take it anymore. Her steps are heavy as she approaches him. Uri, she says softly, her voice almost trembling. Is there something you need to tell me? He looks at her, surprise flashing in his eyes. Neither of them speaks for a moment, and the silence between them grows thick. Her gaze drops to his hand, still on the secretary's arm, and her stomach twists. I saw you with her, she continues, her voice a mixture of pain and disbelief. You and your secretary. It looks like you've moved on. Uri's expression softens. He takes a step closer, his voice low and steady. Tutio, it's not what you think. She's just a colleague, someone I work with. There's nothing between us. Her heart clenches. She wants to believe him. God, she wants to. Then why? She asks, her voice shaking. Why didn't you come for me when I left? Why did you let me go so easily? His eyes darken with regret. I didn't want to force you, he says quietly. I thought you needed time, and maybe we were better off apart. I didn't ask for that, she whispers. I never wanted to leave, but you didn't fight for me. He steps forward, cupping her face gently in his hands. I'm sorry, Tu Tieu. I should have fought for you. Her eyes sting with tears. She searches his face for the truth, but all she finds is a man who feels both familiar and distant. Is he the same Yuri she loved, or just a shadow of who he once was? She stays frozen, his hands warm against her skin. The tenderness in his touch is like a flicker of the past, comforting and painful all at once. I wanted to come back, she admits, her voice trembling, but I couldn't. I didn't know if you'd still want me, if you'd still be here. He opens his mouth to speak, but she lifts her hand to stop him. Don't, she says. Don't apologize again. I can't keep living like this, wondering if you're here because you want to be, or because you feel guilty. He steps back, understanding, settling into his eyes like a weight. For the first time, Yuri sees that their love isn't just about him, or even about them. It's about the wounds neither of them has fully healed. I don't know what to say, he admits, his voice breaking slightly. I thought giving you space would help you find what you needed, but I was wrong. I never should have let you walk away. Her throat tightens at his words, but she isn't sure if they're enough to fix what's been broken. I need time, she says finally, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. Time to figure out if we can ever truly go back to what we were. Yuri nods, sorrow etched into his face. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, waiting. As she turns to leave, her heart feels unbearably heavy. She knows love and trust can't be rushed. They can only be rebuilt, piece by fragile piece. The days that followed passed in a slow, heavy blur. Tu Tieu stayed at the farm, throwing herself into daily chores, feeding the animals, tending the garden, mending fences. Tasks that once brought her comfort now felt hollow, as if she were only going through the motions. Yuri's apology lingered in her mind like an echo that wouldn't fade. His sad eyes, his careful words, they circled back again and again, leaving her torn between wanting to believe him and fearing that belief would shatter all over again. One late afternoon, golden light spilled across the fields. Tu Tieu wandered to the edge of the pond, watching ripples distort the reflection of swaying trees. Then her gaze shifted downward and caught her own reflection. She barely recognized the woman looking back, someone carrying both the weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future. The sound of footsteps broke the moment. Uri was walking toward her, his face solemn yet gentle. Tu Tieu, he called softly, his voice almost lost in the wind. I know I can't erase what's happened, but I need you to know. I still want us. I want to rebuild if you'll let me. Her heart tightened. She wanted to forgive, to believe that love could bridge the gap between them. But fear of being hurt again, held her words captive. I don't know if I can, she whispered, her voice nearly swallowed by the breeze. I don't know if I can trust you again. Uri stepped closer, his eyes pleading. I understand. No matter how long it takes, no matter what it costs, I'll wait for you. Tutio looked at him, really looked. And for the first time in days, she saw a vulnerability in him that mirrored her own. Could she risk her heart one more time? The silence stretched, heavy and fragile, and she realized the hardest part wasn't choosing Yuri or walking away. The hardest part was the fear of making the wrong choice. At last, she found her voice. "I need more time." He nodded, the sadness in his eyes giving way to quiet acceptance. "I'll wait, Tutio, as long as it takes." When she turned away, the cool evening wind carried the scent of rain on the horizon. A storm was coming, not just in the sky, but inside her. The following days were filled with a strange, uneasy quiet. Tutio kept to herself, letting the stillness of the farm wrap around her like a blanket she didn't quite trust. She spent hours caring for the baby, feeding, soothing, rocking him to sleep, finding in his tiny presence a brief escape from the storm in her heart. Life slowed to a crawl, but beneath the calm, doubt remained, gnawing, relentless. She still hadn't asked the question burning in her mind. Was Yuri truly the man she once knew? Or had he changed, just as she had? Could they rebuild what they had? Or was it too broken to repair? One afternoon, as the hum of bees filled the garden, she spotted Yuri across the yard. He was bent over the soil, planting seeds with steady, deliberate movements. The focus in his actions reminded her of the man she had fallen in love with. But there was still a distance between them, an invisible line neither had crossed. Something in her drew her toward him. The moment felt small, but oddly significant. "Uri," she called softly, her voice carried on the wind. He looked up, his eyes meeting hers with a mixture of hope and weariness. "Tu Tieu," he said, straightening slowly. "How are you?" "I'm doing better," she replied, steady but cautious. "But I think I've finally realized something." Uri took a careful step closer. "What is it?" "I've spent so much time thinking about what I want, what I need. But I haven't really asked myself if I'm ready for us. For whatever comes next." Her hands folded in front of her. "I think I'm still afraid." Understanding softened his expression. "I get it," he said quietly. "And I'm not going anywhere. No pressure, no rush, just time." She met his gaze, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a small sense of relief. Maybe it wasn't about finding an answer right now. Maybe it was about allowing herself the space to heal. "I need more time," she whispered again. "But I'll get there, Yuri, I promise." The wind stirred the leaves above, carrying with it the scent of something new. For now, the storm inside her had quieted, but she knew it would return in one form or another. And that was okay. She didn't need to rush into the future. Days passed, and something subtle began to shift. The farm, once a place of tension and unspoken wounds, slowly became a space for quiet understanding. Tutio found herself reflecting more, watching the sunset from the porch, remembering moments with Uri, not with urgency, but with a strange calm. Uri, true to his word, stayed patient. His steady presence reminded her that some people, some loves, were worth waiting for. Yet there were still moments when doubt tugged at her. Memories of laughter under starlit skies, whispered promises, and fleeting touches came back, alongside the question of whether they could ever return to that. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, she was in the garden, tending to the plants. The once barren soil now brimmed with life, just as her heart, though still guarded, was slowly beginning to breathe again. Uri approached quietly. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice low but rich with emotion, "about everything we've been through. And I don't want to lose you, Tu Tieu. I don't want to live with the regret of never trying." She looked at him, and something in the way he said it made her chest ache. She'd been running from the possibility of loving him again, but maybe the fear didn't have to control her anymore. "I'm not sure I'm ready yet," she admitted, "but I think I want to try. I want to give us a chance, just one step at a time." Uri's face lit up with relief and joy. "I'll take those steps with you," he promised, his voice thick with sincerity. "We'll take it slow, together." The farm seemed to hold its breath, the breeze carrying the scent of new beginnings. For the first time in what felt like forever, Tu Tieu allowed herself to believe, not in a perfect future, but in the possibility of healing, love, and second chances. Tu Tieu's quiet life is shaken when Uri, the man she once loved deeply, returns with a heartfelt apology. Haunted by past wounds, she struggles to decide whether to open her heart again or protect herself from further pain. Despite her doubts, Uri remains patient, promising to wait for her no matter how long it takes. Days pass in the stillness of the farm, where small gestures begin to heal old scars. Tu Tieu finds solace in caring for her baby, while Uri works quietly by her side, respecting her space. Slowly, guarded hearts begin to soften, and the possibility of a second chance emerges. It's not an instant happy ending, but a cautious, hopeful journey, one step at a time, toward rebuilding trust, rediscovering love, and embracing the fragile beauty of new beginnings.